You. Yeah, you. Are you just the average tower defense connoisseur? Are you tired of replaying the same few games over and over just to scratch the itch, over half of which are now on mod life support? Do you wish you got to experience playing a brand new tower defense for the first time again? Because if you said yes to any of these, then I relate. But only mostly. And that's due to the main topic of this video and the reason why I'm making it in the first place. Relic Guardian. Developed by the indie studio Mistrigger and released on October 22nd on Steam, it's a more or less classic style tower defense, clearly inspired by the Kingdom Rush games but having more than enough to set it apart. With the most obvious feature being that you play as an actual character in the in-game world rather than just being an all-powerful presence. Though one could argue it's actually secondary to the other main gimmick of this game, that being that you can freely reposition towers whenever you want, which opens up some fun potential strategies. But now I think it's time to talk about the core of any tower defense game. The towers. Or more accurately, the tower system. It's a bit different from the usual, but once you see the full picture you'll realize it's actually quite simple. Essentially, the way it works is that you have your 5 main tower types, once you unlock them all of course. Then, after placing them down, your first upgrade gives you a choice between one of 2 upgrade paths. The next one simply continues the path, and the final one gives the tower some sort of ability or bonus effect. Now, here's where things get really interesting, for you see there are 2 things which you can do outside of the main gameplay that affect the towers. Firstly, there are things that I like to call tower variants. Basically, the way you unlock them is by beating certain levels on challenge mode, which I'll get into later. But pretty much the way they work is that once unlocked you can choose between a few, which will change your towers by buffing them via stat boosts or giving them extra gimmicks at the cost of nerfing other stats. In the later levels, you also unlock one extra variant, which is more transformative compared to the others and gives the tower a cool new look. Now for the second thing, you see I actually lied to you earlier there. While it is true that you can choose between 2 upgrade paths, what I did not mention is that you actually get to pick 2 out of 3 possible upgrade paths that you'll then be able to use if you have them unlocked. So now, as you could imagine, all of that adds up to quite a large variety of tower setups and by extension possible strategies you could go for. Though you may also be wondering what those 5 types even are. I mean, they seem quite similar to Kingdom Rush, but there was only 4. What could the 5th one even be? Well, my dear friend, it is what I like to call magic artillery. It's like artillery, but with magic damage. And yeah, the rest is pretty much just what you would assume. However, what's a modern tower defense with a good old hero system? Which in this game comes in the form of Penny and her alternate selves. Now, what's interesting about them in this game is that your hero can either be a unit or a tower depending which ones you choose. Despite that, however, their mechanics are about the same. They can both be repositioned by pressing Q and having a cooldown before being able to do it again, have all their active and passive abilities in the bottom left corner, and level up by unlocking points in certain levels, which then can be spent on upgrading their abilities. Now, back to that challenge mode I mentioned earlier. It's pretty much this game's equivalent of heroic and iron challenges with a bit of deflation mode from balloons thrown in there. At their core, they simply give you a bunch of cash in the beginning, but don't let you get any more afterwards. And also make you fight 3 large waves instead of the usual 12. Additionally, they will give one of your towers some sort of unique effect which is related to the variant it unlocks. But now that should be more than enough of just explaining how the game works. So let's get to what I personally think about this game in a more general sense. Firstly, I should probably finally talk about the art style. As you can probably tell, the game isn't pixel art and has a very cutesy and silly aesthetic, though it does also have some pretty badass designs, among other things. Now, I think a thing that this game does really well is balance. Throughout my whole playthrough, I felt like I had reason to use most towers or tower variants at least once, and never felt like there was ever an objective best or worst option, though I must admit there were a few variants which I did feel were a bit too specific or niche to properly use, but most of the towers I'd say are perfectly viable. Another neat thing which this game does is level gimmicks. Nearly every single level has some sort of unique feature, big or small, or even an entire area will have a special gimmick. Like for example in the third area you get access to special items which are comparable to powers from PTD6 or the Gnome Shop items from the Kingdom Rush series, but integrated directly into the levels themselves. with more and more options becoming available as you progress through the area. And to cap off the things which I think this game does particularly well, the bosses are also pretty good. I never really found them too easy, and they have some pretty cool unique gameplay features, and if not, at least some pretty cool theming. Now, obviously this game isn't perfect, and one of the main things which I think deserve to get a little bit more work put into them would be the enemy variety. Now, that's not to say that it's horrible, but some enemies do sort of blend together, especially the basic ground enemies between areas, though it does get a bit better near the end. There's also a few smaller things, which aren't really big deal breakers I'd say, but they might get in the way a little. The first one being that the game is clearly not made by native English speakers, and there is a lot of sort of strange phrasing, so you might be confused by some things at first, like for example damage is called attack point, but it's nothing you can't figure out. Now the second one is more of a nitpick more than anything, but there isn't a what I like called tower bestiary, so you can't really look up the stats of any towers whenever you feel like it, you do just have to test it out and write it down somewhere. And for the last thing, the game does have a few bugs. It's nothing crazy, but one of them is potentially really game-changing. Now, I don't know how common this is, but basically what happened to me at least is the first time I booted up the game and played the levels, I for some reason ended up getting extra hero and skill tree points. I assume it was from the challenge mode, but it's kinda hard to tell. Although, after I closed and then later reopened the game, it did go back to the normal amount. Now, the other two are comparatively a lot smaller. Now, the first one makes it so one of the tower variants just doesn't work at all. It is one that just changes the targeting, so I may have simply not noticed it, but as far as I could tell, it just wasn't working. And the second may not even be a bug, but like, the way it just happened was really weird, so I don't know. But basically, there was this twin boss later on in the game, and the way I killed it just didn't feel intentional. Again, it could not be a bug, but I don't know. Also, for those who do have more experience playing tower defenses, I recommend playing in hard mode. Normal mode is also good, but it might get a bit boring at times, especially in the beginning. And actually, if you're looking for a real challenge, this game does actually have some custom difficulty settings, which can make the game really hard. And yeah, that's pretty much the entire review done. Though I would also like to add that this game has been confirmed to get an update at some point in the future, adding all sorts of stuff, pretty much more of everything, and even coming to mobile eventually. Now I'm gonna just waffle on a bit because this is my video and I get to do what I want, so yeah. Anyway, first of all, thank you for watching until the end and somehow managing to stay throughout all of my stumbling over words and such. Let me assure you, this was way worse when it was uncut. And I do also plan on making more content on this game, specifically sort of guides, more in-depth stuff. Definitely gonna make some sort of series where I just go in depth on each and every single tower type. So yeah, if this video caught your attention, then look out for that. And as a little bonus, I'll give you some secret extra tower defense recommendations. There is Tower Dominion, which is like it's sort of like a roguelike tower defense. It's a pretty cool thing. And also another one called Outhold, which has this really unique mechanic where like it centers around this skill tree that like affects literally everything. So they're also pretty cool. Obviously not as good as Relic Guardian because then I would have made a video on them, but yeah. And of course, as per tradition, my video flea ASMR audio recommendation is this one. It's very good drama, very emotional, very intense, definitely a very nice performance, and it's got a nice little happy end at the end, so very satisfying experience. Bye bye.